Okay, great.
Technical difficulties there. Sorry, folks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. I've hit record.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, thank you all for
Mm.
agreeing to serve here and being a part of this process. I wanted to get started with just some discussions about the timeline and the processes here on the town side. I will say, I hope that on this side of things, the deliverables will be relatively straightforward. And then I think the question to kind of address here is the timeline for that and the responsibilities that the members of the subcommittee will play in terms of delivering reports back to the main group.
Do we have a list of the deliverables?
Yes. So we have the proposed timeline in the draft materials for discussion, which I think has been a little pushed back. But you can see the initial thought was to provide this level service, without override and with override budget forecasts for you for discussion. The deliverables on the town side are basically a recommendation for if there is to be an override recommendation for the town side, what that amount is, what it's to go towards, and what other methods beyond an override will we be recommending to realize efficiencies, either in increased revenues or reduced expenditures. And so
Where did the I watched the October 6th recording yesterday. Where do the Harvard Kennedy students play into the town subcommittee portion in terms of their in parallel?
So they have been working on their deliverables for us, and what they have come up with is they are going to do some research into the structure of a potential override. That is to say, should it be a cafeteria style override? Should it be a single question override or a pyramid style override based on the things coming out of these subcommittees? What was the recommended structure of any override? They are also going to be working on a comparison of our fire department operations to other communities to talk about the justification for the ask there, since that's one of the largest town side potential override asks. Looking at particularly comparing our injury on duty rates to other communities' injury on duty rates, to identify any efficiencies that those communities may have taken in terms of and benchmarking us to ensure that we're at the same level as other communities when it comes to these issues. The last thing that they are going to do is a community assessment of basically gut checking the priorities of the community, a sort of follow on to the Polko survey that was done last year, with a focus more on this question of are there, where are the what service levels need to be increased? Where are people satisfied, dissatisfied? Basically, gut checking the priorities on both the town and school side when it comes to any potential override and the willingness of the community to move forward on that. So they've got 3 different deliverables on the Harvard Kennedy School side, 2 of which I think play more directly into the town, which is this survey of priorities and the fire department.
So the benchmarking is an independent, or is that benchmarking the fire station comparison? The style of the override, type of override was one. The fire station comparison, injury and duty stuff,
Yep.
So that's the second one, and then you mentioned benchmarking against other communities. That's fire station still benchmarking?
Oh, no, sorry. So that's a community survey. It's not benchmarking.
Oh,
That part is not against other communities.
okay,
It's a follow on to the
all right,
Polco survey about community priorities.
okay. And there was at some point I mean, maybe I missed, I don't think I missed the meeting, but there was some presentation that was going to be made on the town side about what services would be potentially reduced, what the potential narrative would be of that, not narrative to go to the community, but internally for this group,
Yep.
where you saw stuff. I don't think that ever got shared or,
Not yet. I mean, because what I want to do there is before I share that with the group, I need to share that with the departments. And I've started doing that now. I will say that I think there are potential efficiencies that will be realized regardless of whether or not an override passes. That is to say, we are going to see cuts to the town side of the budget no matter what. Um, and at least that will be my recommendation. And then there will be a broader cut list in the event of a so-called no override scenario. But the my presentation to you and Melissa and Charlie and I have begun this process. It will be, here's the gap. As I see it, my initial presentation to you on this is going to be, here's the gap between where we are, in terms of, just maintaining the current effort and where we need to be. Here are the reductions I will propose making, regardless of whether or not an override is on the ballot, in order to reduce that number. Here's the delta between where that gets us, because it's not going to get us all the way down to a balanced budget, but it will get us closer than it was before. Um, and that forms the basis of any potential override ask. And then I want to show you the no override scenario, which it will be much broader. And I will rely on you as a subcommittee to gut check that, to look at that and say, are there things on that list that should be on the we should reduce this no matter what scenario? Or are there things on the we should reduce this no matter what list that you think need to come off? That's too dear a price to pay. We need to go to the community and ask for this before we cut it. And so gut checking those two lists is the initial area. There's also the opportunity, we talked about this in the summer, for additional revenues. Since we had that initial discussion, I have gamed that out a bit more. I do think there are opportunities for increase in revenue. Again, they're not going to offset everything, but there are some offsets that we will be able to realize there that will make some dent. The biggest single one is probably going to be a recommendation to raise building permit fees by 5%. And so you'll be able to see that and the practical impact there. And again, we will offer the justifications, we will offer the rationales for why, and you will have the opportunity to dig into that. If you think no, and we can talk, the building commissioner and I will happily talk to you about, for example, what's the practical impact of raising the building permit fees? Does that mean, are we going to see fewer applications? Are we going to see, these sorts of issues? And then there are other fees and permits where the costs haven't been evaluated in some time that we can take a look at. But realistically, that's not going to give us, taken together, that's going to give us some money, but it's not, I think the total amount in terms of increased revenue from fees and other areas that we collect is going to be in the six figures, not in the seven figures, in the hundreds of thousands, not in the millions of dollars.
Chaz, I have a question on the line you skipped over, which is the benefits comparison.
Yes.
But I'm not seeing salaries and the things go together. And also wondering if that includes the school side where they're going to be going into negotiations, just to have a sense of where we fit and where there might be room for pushback. Especially since Dick had raised that with one of the things he supplied the whole committee, which showed the increases in school salaries, because I think that's an important part of the conversation. At least I hear that
Sure.
from people not willing to put even more of their money into the pot.
Sure. I think we can. So and as part of the last override, we conducted a pretty in-depth analysis of our non-union positions. We have also subsequently conducted an analysis of the positions that are covered in the Department of Public Works, which is our single biggest department. We did that analysis in advance of entering into collective bargaining negotiations with AFSCME, who's the union that represents most of those employees. We have, comparisons from police and fire because we negotiated those contracts. So we have all that data, and I'm happy to provide that. And I think we can absolutely have that discussion.
Will we
I
have
think
the school side, or will they be doing it? I just think it needs to be total.
that's a good point. I think the school side, I think when we talk about the schools this afternoon, we can discuss that as a one of their deliverables, as an analysis of
Okay, thank you. I
comparison.
appreciate that.
Yep, because we have it on the town side. So we can, and that material is available. I will caution that some of it is not publicly available. But we will definitely do our best to build out that model and share it. The DPW study is publicly available. Our internal comparators on non-union positions is not public, but we can show the end result of that.
So when you say, because anything that we talk about becomes public,
Mhm.
so I'm not sure how you're distinguishing between what you can and cannot show us to keep it not public.
So I think that the stuff that I want to show you is the kind of the front end of those calculations, basically saying we did an analysis based on, and it was quite in depth. I said Charlie Young spent a lot of time on this, trying to figure out, a real apples to apples comparison of other communities, because as you can imagine, right? Oh yeah, well, someone in Dedham gets paid X, but their job description is significantly different, even though the job title is the same. So we
Yes,
did a lot of digging there.
titles are not helpful, especially in administrative positions.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, because basically what I'm looking for is, to the extent that you can and get apples and apples, job classifications. So on the school side, not this is what we pay individual teachers, but these are the ranges in these categories. On the town side, these are the ranges that we pay people who drive trucks, people who are in the fire department, all of that. And that's the level you can disclose, and that's the only level I think we want to see.
That we can do. That's
Okay.
helpful. Yeah, we can do that. We'll pull that at those comparators. So kind of taking things back from there. So first and foremost, presenting to you what a level funded budget would look like in the gap. Second, looking at the reductions and revenue increases that would help narrow that gap, figuring out if we were all comfortable with that analysis and that bottom line, the maintenance of effort number at the kind of base of any override. And then the question is, what's left? You've had the presentations from all the departments about what they would like to be doing, what they feel like they cannot do under the current circumstances. Excuse me. And so taking a look at that list again, the priorities that I've put together based on the conversations I've had with you all and with the select board and with members of the public, and then testing those assumptions. For example, I think again the fire department is going to be the single biggest beneficiary of any potential override because of the gap in overtime. But I want people to feel confident that that's a realistic that issue is a real issue. It's not a phantom issue that's the result of some other thing. I think we can go back and show that, way back in 2017, the shift in how we budgeted for that led to a shortfall in our overtime budget that has persisted, and that we just haven't caught up with. And so being able to demonstrate that, and therefore that the need is real, and it's not just that, well, we're racking up overtime, for the sake of it. And that's where, again, comparison to other communities is going to come in handy. And doing that analysis. I know the fire union, when there's a public hearing in November is going to want to come and talk about that issue. And so we're going to invite them to have that conversation. And so that's one example. For other examples, the restoring of the positions in the police department, the benefits there, the way that then assists us in terms of overtime and the work that needs to get done in the department. So all of that is important. But then, when you factor all those things in, then there's a very narrow potential band of ask money left for anything else. And so what this body will need to do is take a look at the needs of the community and the needs of the departments and try and prioritize that. I have an initial sense of where I think how that prioritization works. But it's ultimately your recommendation to make. And so I want to give you the full list of everything that we could do. And then think about, okay, what are the vital things that are missing here? Are there additional things that we should put on there? Even if this pushes the town side above where we were last time, above $5 million. Or do we want to try and stick as best we can to that $5 million number? Do we want to index it to inflation? Do we want to say $5 million plus inflation over the last 3 years? Or do we do something? Do we undertake a different sort of analysis? So that's the kind of final question. And then there's reporting out, right? And so I think the questions to be answered in a written report are, what are we doing? What are we doing now? Where are the unmet needs, and why are we prioritizing these particular needs?
Well, I guess how clearly can we articulate why we're short? I mean, if I'm Joe Q. Citizen, I just want to know, why are we short? So even, regardless of how well, let's say, we're doing on, BFAC had recommended 5 years back that the town do an annual financial plan.
Yeah.
Kind of FIP or something.
Yeah.
What did they call it? They called it a financial improvement plan. So I don't know. I haven't seen one, but I'm saying is that to the extent that we plan, the average citizen, just hears that we're going to raise taxes. So the question really is, can we really indicate that our budgeted amount is equivalent to our need, or our budgeted amount is not equivalent to our need? When it's not equivalent to our need, either we have to lose something or get more money. I don't think, I think the same issue is going to play out on the school side. The school, everybody agrees we have to have schools. Everybody agrees the bills have to be paid. We budget a certain amount, for the school each year. We spend it. We had to borrow this year to make our budget. Currently on the expense side, as of a couple of days ago when I checked, we're smack on, like 30% into the fiscal year, 30% money spent on the expense side. So we're tracking right spot on for what we budgeted. I'll get some more data today. And then the question's going to be, with inflation, and the bargaining, as Janet pointed out, costs will go up next year. The budget will have to be increased somewhat. And where will that money come from? I mean, it's not really a question of, I think demonstrating to the average citizen that we plan is fine, but it's really more a question of, it's not really a question of doing more with less. You can't double your class size just to save money. That won't work. So the question is really going to be, and again, you can't pick up trash every other week because the bins aren't big enough, so somewhere we're just going to have to find a way to explain that it's not a question of doing more with less. It's a question of tracking what we need with the revenues that we anticipate through, I think, and people will understand, it's a very strong financial plan that we can share with people, provided in a way that they can really understand it, not gobs and gobs of spreadsheets, but also not rarefied to like 3 or 4 line items.
Mhm.
You know, revenue, expense, and total. That's not going to help people either. A lot of smart people around, they can do a little, you know, we can do better. So that's what I mean. The question in my mind, getting Chaz, is just like, how long is it going to be before we can actually get into the meat of this, given that it's the second half of October?
No, I agree. I think once we set the parameters in this meeting, I would like us to meet next week and kick this and
Yeah.
kick this off, right? You know, start that process. I
I think,
want to make
Um,
sure that we all are in agreement on what's expected and what the deliverables are. And then this team, we're going to get straight to work. We want to start digging
one
in.
of the things that is missing in this town is the concept of there ain't no more. And I don't know if it's this committee or the Futures Committee, but somebody has to real explicitly say there are no pots of gold anywhere, that if we filled in every reasonable expansion of commercial, it's not going to solve the problem because we don't have the room to grow. Because when I talk to people, there's always that money out there. So I don't know, again, if it's us or it's the future people, but if you want anything else from the community, you're going to have to show them not just we have to have these things, but there's no other place other than this around the edges, which won't solve the problem, which doesn't mean we don't take it when we can get it.
Right.
And
I think-
also for town meeting to stop adding more on the expense side. That to me, in the years that I've been involved, has been the biggest budget buster on the town side. I can't speak for the schools.
Right.
But
Well,
just,
we-
we want this and we want this and we want this, and it won't cost anything, but it always costs something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would also add to that. I know one of the big discussions going on right now after the in Brookline.news related, I think to the article about the flock cameras, but sort of tangential, brought out these other folks who I've never heard of, who are now complaining about why are we doing all this work on street upgrades, not smoothing and painting, but more the bike lanes and the speed bumps and the bollards and all the stuff like that. The problem is, I think there, Janet, is that people see the town spending money on that because it's the town out there doing it or the town paying a contractor doing it. And they don't care if you tell them, I know this from the pedestrian advisory side, they don't care if you tell them it's a grant dollar from the state that didn't come out of our
I know.
original property tax money. They don't care. They don't want to hear it. All they see is that there's the town, TOWN, is putting money into things that people are saying, like, why are we spending money on that when we don't have enough money for textbooks or this or that? And I think part of the issue, Janet, that you correctly put your finger on too, and we see it on the pedestrian and on the mobility side, is people continue to stream in these ideas and they get grants to do them, but it takes staff time to manage them. And then if we don't get the staff time to run them, then we end up behind because the things get put into the 3D space of the town. And then they have to be managed, you know, tree bylaws, all these things. So the accumulated shortfalls that creep in from around the edges, and some because of warrant articles, are sort of insidious in a sense, because they sound good at the time and they sort of rhyme or align with the current zeitgeist out there in terms of, you know, where we want Brookline to be. But at the same time, we need to draw the line somewhere and say, look, here's our shortfall because of this. Here's what's going to happen. And we really can't afford to do every single thing we apply for a grant for. It'd be nice, but we've got to sort of hunker down and weather the storm. So I agree with you. I think one of the things, I mean, the schools aren't going to say that. Schools aren't going to say, you know, we're going to not maintain our schools. We're not going to provide new Chromebooks when they break. I mean, there's stuff that's going to, you know, the floors have to be cleaned, the doors have to open, the people need to be there. We get that. But at the same time, town hall has to operate and streets need to be cleaned and trash needs to be picked up and permits need to run. Everything the town's doing, which makes it a vibrant town, needs to continue. But we need to figure out how to slow down the I don't know, call it the budget sappers, you know, the things that just take, you know, 100,000 here and 500,000 there. We can't do it. I mean, I think we need to identify from the town side where we draw the line. So, I mean,
Good.
and
Yeah, on
that's
top-
our committee too. I wouldn't worry about the Futures Committee. If they come up with the same idea, that's great. But I think from our side, strongly from the town side, I'm 100% on board with you there. We need to identify how we plan. We need to then basically tell the public, you know, did we actually make it or not? Like, did we experience a shortfall? And if so, why? Specifically, why? So people don't think, you know, we got to be completely transparent about it.
Right, and grants, when they run out, you now have a service that becomes part of what we do,
Correct.
which adds to it. And then on the other side, even if it's state funding, you hear, well, why, but money is fungible, so why don't we use the state money to do X instead of Y? And the level of, I'm going to use the word ignorance because that's what it is. People just don't know, don't understand how these things work. And I to the extent that we can put it in plain English, I know I jokingly said that to the town clerk, when you're doing the bylaws, can't you put them in English so people know what they mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this is very important in terms of public perception. You know, we had a conversation at the select board level, you know, a couple select board members at the beginning of this process said, well, you know, sure seems like we're spending a lot of money on plans, like plans for new things. And like, how are we actually gonna, you know, get the money to do this stuff? And isn't it just a waste? And the perception there, right, that, oh, we've got these pie in the sky ideas and we're throwing money after them, but we'll never be able to finish them. Is not borne out by reality. But if that's the perception that people have, then we need to correct that perception. In reality, the amount of money that we spend on thinking about potential new initiatives or operations is of our outside services, it's less than 1% of our outside services budget, let alone the actual budget. You know, it's less than $200,000 in a budget of over 100 million. And so the perception that we are focused on these, you know, big ticket items and not on the provision of day-to-day services, like you said, Jesse, cleaning the roads, opening the schools, and so forth, is a really important one, I think, to correct. And right, you know, to your point, Janet, about money being fungible, it is a question of the trade-offs that you want to have, because grant money is sometimes the rare exception to that rule, right? The state, for example, for roads is not going to say, all right, you don't want to do Washington Street, why don't you do 10 side streets instead? They don't want 10 side streets. They want Washington Street. And in order for us to get the money for Washington Street, it's got to come with a bike lane. And so then there's that question. Do we give up? You know, is it worth it to us to say, I don't want the $29 million. I'll figure out a way to do Washington Street without a bike lane. And, you know, in that case, the answer was, there's no realistic way in our budget to be able to redo Washington Street by ourselves. And so it's not necessarily coercion, but it is the fact that either we do it the way the state wants us to do it or it doesn't get done. And so those kinds of issues need to be, but they need to be tested, right? And we need to demonstrate that. It's one thing to say it, but people will say, oh, I don't know, did you try hard enough? You know, we get that a lot. And I think it's important for us to demonstrate that, yeah, we did.
They do. That played into Pierce also, where I thought it was an incredibly expensive school to redo. The school as it was could not stand as a school, and nobody on the vote no side could give me a plausible way to get what had to happen cheaper without, and you know, then I had to vote for what was in front of me. And I think that's the thing also that we need to explain. You don't have a menu. You have X or Y. And voting no means you don't want X. And voting, you know, it's not, I want it, but I want to do it another way. That's never a choice. And people think that's a choice. And that's not just locally, that's in every single election. I'd rather have something else.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Chaz, that I mean, when money becomes available, we need to think creatively about how to leverage that money. On the other hand, the state probably is not looking at, I don't know, let's say traffic density and quality of life and transportation as a through hub from outside urban communities to Boston when they're looking at Brookline and giving Washington Street $29 million. They could care less about that. That's our problem. And so,
Right.
so when you back up you know, when you do something that backs the traffic up from Watertown to get into Brookline, and then you find people finding there are other ways around, and you narrow Hammond Pond Parkway, and then you narrow Washington Street, and then you narrow Harvard Street, etc. There are real life consequences, and no amount of and once you've sunk the money in, you're caught. So that long-term planning from a community standpoint is sort of incomplete if we just look at the money the state is dangling in front of us to redo streets. So I mean, it's part of really a bigger discussion about how do you want Brookline to look, right? And how do you want it to operate? And so from
and I think another dynamic in that is how will Brookline be safe, a safe place? I mean, that's another, that's a part of the inquiry too, I think, in the story, if you will.
When do you mean safe, Ruth Ellen, on safety for transportation, safety for pedestrians, safety for living? What do you
Yeah,
mean?
it's all of the above in a sense, and it may be that one factor of the three that you just mentioned in a certain particular place is more important than like having sidewalks so people can walk on a sidewalk and not in traffic, quote unquote. But the descriptions, I think, are important as to why it has to be done this way with state money, that a lot of people don't either. Some don't want to hear it, some don't understand it.
So I think what might be a good thing to do as we, so I think we have the broad contours of what the deliverables are. I think it would be a good thing for Tiffany, if she wants to go over the kind of one pager on logistics, how the committee is run in practice, so that we can have that conversation. Thinking about how it's, minutes and chairs and division of responsibilities and so forth. Does that sound like a good place to turn to at this juncture?
Well, yeah, sure. It seems to me that we're sort of waiting on your team to provide us with data to dig through.
Yep.
So it's really, there really aren't a whole lot of deliverables for us right now. I mean, depending
right
on
at the present moment. No, but I think all the more reason to get organized so that when we try to hit the ground next week, we can go.
Sure.
So question before we do that, how many of you will be joining us, or how much of it are we on our own?
I am going to try and make the presentations of the data
Right.
and all of that. This committee is going to be my primary responsibility. And so I'm going to try and be with you through all of that and to route requests back through, Nicole and I will route requests back through. So as you, for example, see this information, say, well, can I talk to this department about X or Y? Then we can route that information to you. But the broader contours of the discussion, I want us all to agree on what's expected, and then I need the committee to kind of the subcommittee to push us, and do the drafting. That's the big thing.
Chaz, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Concerning the timeline document that you put up on the website here,
yes,
if I may, and I think it relates to what you're thinking about in terms of logistics and that sort of thing. I've got a question and an observation. The first two deliverables, I'm not sure they've been delivered, and yet they're dated 9/30. So
yes,
I'm not sure where we are on that.
We're
the second
behind,
is
yes.
Perhaps let me just run on the 12/12/25. That's the timeline deadline, I guess, for this. There's a comment that I don't understand. Perhaps you could explain. It says in italics, the level service forecast from the town and school will not be part of the committee's report unless no additional forecasts are provided. I guess the double negative is throwing me off, but perhaps you could enlighten us.
I think I think that was added to kind of assuage the concerns of some folks that the recommendation of the committee would be, in the event that we are going to do something different, what are we doing, right? That we're going to have a what happens if we do nothing kind of budget, ready to go. That's the no override scenario. And then the report, I think, will focus on what are the three area, what are the expenditure reductions, revenue increases, and potential tax increases that are recommended, and what do they go to? So I think that's what that means, is this idea that the focus is not going to be on the level services budget, because staff are going to do that. It's going to be available to the select board and the school committee. If you want a level service budget, this is what it looks like. And here's the gap between where we are in our ability to provide that.
It would be helpful if we could just update the timeline. We don't have to do it right now, but somewhere along the way, so we know when we're supposed to be doing. Because what we
Yes.
have is inadequate at this point.
Yes.
And Chad, I have another point here, and I'm not sure where it goes in the kind of scheme of things, and it concerns free cash.
Sure.
I'm just looking at the budget on my other screen here, and the latest numbers on this, the Budget Central, is that we're forecasting $25 million in free cash. Amanda, I think there's something like the budget provides an estimate. This is FY26 budget, 20.8 million if available for appropriation. These are big numbers, and what worries me is this, and is getting the committee getting a handle on that, because if you look at that, I mean, my reaction to that is we don't have a problem. We got $25 million in free cash. Maybe we need a cushion. Maybe we need to worry about our rating, our AAA rating, and so on and so forth. But maybe 10 million would do, as opposed to 25. Therefore, we got $15 million in the bank, so to speak. We don't need an override. So I think we need to spend some time on that as to what the free cash is going to look like, and what is the level of free cash we should be shooting for. What have we got any slack there that we can pick up?
So, John, I think we did present that. We presented that at the last full committee meeting, where we had a discussion about the town's overall revenue picture. We provided 5 years of revenue history as well, that showed where the surpluses were coming from, why a lot of it is considered one-time in nature, and why we feel that we're not ready to adjust local receipts any further than we already have. And we can kind of resend that information out, but I think that we feel that our revenue estimates are conservative in order to meet our fiscal targets for reserves and CIP at this point.
And I think we can definitely delve deeper into that, because yes, I think it's
if I could
important.
just thank you, Melissa. And I just looking at the graph that you've got there in Budget Central, and the trend is up, and dramatically up in the last couple of years, 22, 23. That's all the information there is there. I'm just saying it's been rising since 2003. So it suggests, to me, it just suggests looking at that very closely. That's all.
I think it's more explaining it, so that we finally get the public to understand we need reserves, we need monies to go in certain directions. So what looks like a bit pot of money, and a lot of the let's do more comes from, well, it's $400 million. We can spend that. I mean, I can't conceive of personally $400 million. So there's got to be money somewhere. And those are all things that we need to address in the report.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway here is that, to your point, John, that big increase coincides with pandemic aid. That's, a big portion of why our numbers went up, is because that money was deposited into our bank accounts and we saw interest jump. Because while we weren't spending it, we were investing it. And we got a really significant return on that. But that is the definition of one-time money. And now we're spending that down. And so that number is going to come down. I also think, the Department of Local Services says your free cash should be between 5 and 7% of your prior year's revenues. And we have hit that mark in the last couple of years. So yes, free cash has been going up steadily. but our budget has been going up steadily. And we are trying to maintain ourselves within the target of DLS. And so we are doing that. We are within that target. We can absolutely talk in more detail about free cash, the waterfall, what it goes to. And there is, one of the potential recommendations for adjustment here is using less revenue to fund the CIP, funding fewer capital projects. You want to be very careful there about how you pull that lever and how much, because, right, one of the demands for the community is roadways and so forth. And with less money to go around in the CIP, less opportunity for change on that front. But that is an area where we can look and see if there's a reduction to be had there and what impact that would have. So that's one of the things that I want to bring to you next week, is this idea of should our policy, which is currently to use free cash to fund the CIP up to a 6.6%, be reduced, and if so, by how much?
Thank you.
I
Charlie.
think we should move to Melissa, or we won't finish the meeting.
I just wanted to add really quick. Thank you, Chaz. John, if you look at that free cash number, it's not in real dollars. If you take the 12 million we had in free cash in 2000 and plug it into a CPI calculator, you get roughly our free cash today. So we're turning out in real dollars the same amount of free cash we were 20 years ago.
Charlie, I understand the mathematics, but an average voter looking at that chart is going to say, wow.
No, I completely understand. I think that maybe is what we should either think about doing, presenting it in real dollars or adding a real dollars line.
Well, I think this was Sergio's point about inflation adjusted figures.
Yeah, just one other thing on the memo that John was talking about. I guess it's the one that's in our today's agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I'm, again, John Citizen Public over here, and I'm looking at this and I see the dates of, school to share level service forecast on October 7, October 14, etc. There's no link to anything. Like, there's no way you can see that anything's been done because you can't get to where any of this information is. So I guess one thing would be, if the town was supposed to share 3 forecasted budgets on September 30, where's the link to those budgets in this document so that the person coming to this page, which if you know to even go in and look for it here, you could get to it. Does it exist?
So this was Sadaf's original work plan. So that's why the dates are where they are. It's because she, put this together in early September. And so, we're a couple of weeks behind schedule here, but we are catching up. I agree that it's a good idea for us to have a central work page. The committee does.
I would suggest maybe even that when people go to ERSC, the homepage for our group, right now the videos end like in March. So you have to dig into each one to find every other meeting's recording if you want to. And then the repository of any of these pieces of information also needs to be, I would say, much better centralized. People can't be expected to go agenda by agenda, meeting by meeting, hoping to pick at the materials to see if they get lucky and hit a golden document that has links to what they need. It just makes it impenetrable. So I think if we want to be more transparent, it could be a model for other other committees that work too. We should really expose all of it more on the central page. And the worst that people will say is, oh my God, you guys have a lot of documents there to look through. Okay, but that's better than pinning them inside agenda materials, in my view. So if there's a way to if there's a way to do that, that would be pretty helpful.
We can take a look and see how we can get that website, that page, that landing page, to be more helpful.
Yeah, that's right. That would be. I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I've seen committee pages where they've had, these are all the materials listed down without having to go into each agenda to find it. And also to take a look at what we call some of the things, because sometimes I don't know what I'm looking at and it's not what I want to see. I'm happy to help if you want to know what I mean by changing some of the names on things. for example, Sadov's memo, which one is that? I even missed the fact that there was a version 2 because I'd read version 1 many times. So I second what Jesse has to say, but I think we need to hear what
Yeah.
you need from us in terms of organizing the committee.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I'll just repeat that if you go to the main page of expenditures and revenue, there's a link on the left side that says committee files, which is where you'd expect to find everything. And if you click on committee files, you get to some normal document center that only has 2 documents from February uploaded in March. So it just sort of suggests, at least that's on the main one. And then if you go to revenue and comps and proximity comps, there's some snapshots, but it's all from March. So in terms of anyone looking from the community and wanting to see what documentation we've developed and what information we're sharing, it seems that like nothing's been done since March. And now it's October, almost November. So I think it would, since the documents are available, Jess, I suppose, you know, Tiffany, Nicole have these documents. Yeah, you know, if there's some way that maybe, you know, I'm certainly willing to shoulder the burden with Janet and with access to the website thing, I'm sure we can get these documents all in one place and, you know, sort of folderized in a way that makes it easy to see where things are.
Sure, I think that would be a big help.
Well, let us know, because I mean this is going to be hard. I mean, right now there's no one knows where anything is really. I mean, you may, but most of us don't know where anything is. So it's just we're not. I mean, this is like just paperwork, really, in a sense. But on the other hand, if we don't know where to find anything, like look in the agenda from August 12th, and you'll find something there. That's not that. I mean, that's unacceptable. We really need to have everything in one place. So I would strongly recommend we spend some time creating the model on the town subcommittee of this for how to get all these documents in the right place, and then I think schools and futures can just line up with us. And now Melissa, or I saw her, Tiffany.
Okay. All right. I put this guidance document together to just help you all and all of the subcommittees think about what happens in the lead up to a meeting, the meeting itself, and then post-meeting. So each subcommittee will be responsible for selecting kind of the date and time of its meetings, or a regular cadence if you want to schedule on a regular cadence. Once a meeting date has been determined, you'll need to notify Nicole Lima of the date and time of the meeting and also the items to be included on that agenda. Nicole will then publish the agenda and schedule the Zoom meeting for you. If you'd prefer to have an in-person or hybrid meeting, you'll need to coordinate with her so she can make sure that either of the rooms on the first floor of Town Hall, which are most conducive to hybrid meetings, either room 103 or 111, are available. If you want to hold a hybrid meeting and want to use one of those rooms, if it's after business hours, we just need to make sure that someone on the subcommittee will feel comfortable hitting join on the D10, because you may or may not have staff available with you. I know Chaz is going to try to attend as many of these as possible. I just don't know if he's going to be in person every time. A couple of notes on posting requirements. So for every public body across the town, meetings must be posted at least 48 hours in advance of the scheduled day and time. But Nicole is going to really need at least one additional business day prior to that 48 hours to get your agenda prepared and posted. So she does need some time in advance of that open meeting law kind of deadline. We can schedule them farther out. So we do have the ability in our civic clerk system, if you know all of the dates, we can schedule them as events and add agendas later. So that's an option too. We don't need to wait to post it until the agenda is available. Any questions on scheduling and posting?
No.
Okay, great. I'll keep going and then we can come back to anything. Starting and managing the meeting. So Nicole or an alternate host that she designates will have to launch the Zoom meeting for you. This is because only staff with active Zoom town licenses can start the Zoom Gov meeting. If the meeting is occurring in normal business hours, Nicole should be able to launch the meeting for you. But if you're hosting a meeting after business hours, we need to make sure you confirm with Nicole who on the town side is going to launch your subcommittee meeting or who on staff is going to launch your subcommittee meeting if it occurs outside of those regular business hours. For this meeting and all future meetings, Nicole's going to make sure when she sets up the Zoom meeting that she has the AI companion tool set up. This essentially writes a summary for you of what's happened in the meeting, and it'll just help you with minute taking for the meeting. Again, that should be automatically enabled, so you shouldn't have to worry about anything related to that. A couple of notes on participant roles. Really would suggest that you all select a chair to really guide the subcommittee's work and make sure it moves along. These subcommittees are going to be big lifts. Only subcommittee members and ex officio staff should be promoted as co-hosts. So if you look on the participants list of the Zoom meeting right now, you'll notice that only you all are co-hosts. There is, I think, one other member of the public participating right now, and you'll notice next to their name, they say guests. All other attendees need to be guests. So we're only promoting, clicking next to their name and promoting people who are on the committee. Other expenditures and revenue study committee members can attend your subcommittee meeting, but they need to attend as guests. They shouldn't participate in discussion or voting. Otherwise, we run into open meeting law violation issues. And I think I already mentioned this, but ex officio staff can be promoted to co-host status as well because they are non-voting members and they don't contribute towards quorum. So they'll be there to, when available, to help you with discussion. The staff person that sets up your meeting should be able to help with these things, but I just wanted to make sure all of these details were there just in case you run into these things. So like, for example, host tool settings. These settings really help to make sure that we don't get a situation of Zoom bombing in the meeting. And so the staff person who sets this up for you should be able to make sure these are activated, but it's always a good thing to know for all of you to know and to double check on. So under host tools, Jesse, that's where you were able to enable Ruth Ellen to speak at the very bottom of the Zoom screen. We really want to make sure that only enable waiting room is checked and all other options should remain unchecked. Otherwise, any guest or member of the public could turn on their camera or screen share or unmute themselves and say whatever they wanted to in the meeting. However, if someone like Ruth Ellen today is joining by phone, you're going to also need to enable allow participants to unmute themselves. So Jesse, that was what you did.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing that we want to make sure is that we hit at the bottom of the screen, there's also a record button that we hit start the recording once the meeting begins and stop the recording once the meeting concludes. Often the meeting will end and members will kind of go into personal discussions about other things. Please make sure you stop the recording before having any of those kind of personal one-to-one discussions. When the business is over, end the meeting. That way we don't have to do any technical video editing later. Any questions on starting the meeting or being in the meeting? Okay. All right, last thing, after the meeting and follow-ups. So within a couple of days, Nicole will do this very quickly, but within a couple of days at least, Nicole will post the meeting recording link for the Zoom meeting to the Civic Clerk platform associated with that particular meeting date. One subcommittee member will need to be assigned to draft the meeting minutes. You all can decide if you want that to be a elected or appointed position of a secretary, or if you want to rotate that workload amongst the committee members. If there are any requested meeting follow-ups that come up relevant to the town side, so you need this document, Y document, or you need this person to come and answer questions, please send a list of those follow-up items that you need to Chaz or Nicole, or Chaz and Nicole, so that we can make sure to kind of circle back on those.
Yeah, both of us, please.
Yep. And then I noted a couple of things on AI Companion already, but just wanted to reiterate, Nicole will share the summary of the AI Companion that's there with you after the meeting. Whoever's the secretary or the rotating position for keeping meeting minutes, please just make sure you check what AI summary is saying. Sometimes it does have hallucinations or will misspell names or things like that. So we just want to verify if you're going to use that as a tool. I find it can be helpful, especially in these types of discussions. And then just wanted Joe note that you don't need to be very verbose about your minutes. Really, it's just most important that you include who the members were that were present or absent, any votes that were taken, and what the motion was, who seconded it, and what the actual vote was, 2-3 or whatever, and a brief summary of the discussion topic. Again, that AI summary should be helpful. And then we'll need to submit, whoever's taken those minutes will need to submit the finalized minutes to Nicole at least 48 hours before the next scheduled meeting, so she can make sure that that's on the agenda for you. Yes.
Just a quick question, because I've seen it done both ways in the minutes. Do we identify speakers, or do we just say, this is what happened? Because I've seen it both ways. It would be helpful for me if there were a format to follow.
Yeah, public bodies across the town do it both ways, like you've just said. So
Yeah.
I think it's up to you all how you want to structure that. Yeah. The thing is that we have the votes are the most important. Who from the subcommittee is most important, and you can be very brief about discussion. You can decide if you want to have presenters. Why was I saying this? I was saying this because
do we have to, the question was, do we have to identify who dialogued each different piece of the meeting? Mention the names of the people who were talking.
Yeah.
Required. It's not like a court transcript or anything like that. It's really
Right,
just a
exactly.
summary. Yep.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
need-
what I was going to say is you also have the for like I don't know if posterity is the word, but to keep it evergreen, there's the recording as well. So if anyone ever needed to go look back and see who the presenter was, that's there. So it's really up to this committee how you want to do that.
Do the votes need to be recorded by person, assuming that many of our meetings, if not all, will be on Zoom? So it's not a 3-2 vote, but these are the 3 yeses and the 2 nos?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's an important thank you, Janet. And I'll add that when I go over this with other subcommittees. Because of the virtual nature or in a hybrid meeting, you do just want to make sure that it's a roll call vote.
I think the way that we do it on the school committee subcommittees is that although it's a roll call vote, we do list or the minutes do list who voted yes, who voted no, and who abstained. Just so
and that's our practice for the expenditures and revenues group as a whole anyway. It usually has the count and then who was there that voted yes or no. So yeah, I think that same structure is what should be done.
Okay, so are we do we have a few minutes then before Janet has to leave to discuss the next meeting and then how we want to do any kind of assignment of tasks within the subcommittee in terms of secretary and chair and all those things?
Yeah, it would be helpful to pick a chair now, I think, since they're going to have to pull a lot of stuff together before the next meeting. No volunteers.
Well, I was sort of thinking of volunteering, Janet. It's just that I don't really feel, I mean, my school committee responsibilities are fairly deep right now, and I'm happy to do this. But as I said, I don't know, half hour ago, it's really more on the town side to present, to present and to deliver the kinds of things we've been hearing about for some time now. So it's really
volunteer John Van Scoy, who is not here.
I want to protect my relationship with John, though.
I know, but I think I know. Given that he's the select board member, if he's unable to do it, obviously we can talk to him. But I take your point, Jesse. It's if you want someone who's in the same way I think that you want a school committee member heading up the school side of it, you probably want a select board member heading up the town side of it.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So let's volunteer John or identify.
You can say that I did it, and then I'll apologize to him.
Well, I can send him an invitation. I mean, I can send him a message and say we'd like him to serve.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do
that's
that.
good.
And what do you think about? I mean, again, it depends on when the town's ready to share a lot of this information and organize the documents and things like that. So is Wednesday next week too soon?
I can't do, I think next Wednesday, let me just pull up my
Well,
calendar.
I'm just thinking that till next Friday already is, like towards the end of the
No,
month.
no, I want to make sure that there are days that I know I can't do, that those are in
understand.
front of me when we pick a date.
I understand.
So the 22nd, actually, I can do other than around lunchtime. The 29th is just out of pocket for me. I'm not available.
Well, we
Everything
could
else
bounce
on
it.
my,
Yeah, we could bounce it to different days, but I think we need to get our
Yeah.
first meeting set up and then we can discuss more of it at the next meeting. Yeah, Wednesday morning for me, early, like this time, 9 to 10 or something could work, or earlier. I mean, 8
Yeah,
to
that
8,
works for me.
8 or 9 in the morning.
You know,
9:30.
is that the 22nd?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a morning meeting that goes from 9:30 to 12:30. So, you know,
And I unfortunately am in
So I
Chelsea
wouldn't-
meeting with the city manager. Ordinarily I would move stuff around, but that's a meeting I can't move.
What does Tuesday look
Yeah.
like for people? The 21st?
Well, again, how soon can, and we don't want to meet again and not have the town side ready to deliver.
I would say Thursday is what do people's Thursdays look like?
Okay, so
I
Thursday.
have a Thursday morning appointment. I can move it if I have to.
Thursday's a problem for me, unfortunately.
Ah,
yeah.
Okay, and Friday?
Friday
What about
mornings.
Friday? Friday?
I have a
was gonna
standing
say-
thing that I do Friday mornings that I can juggle
Mhm.
like I am today, but I'd rather not unless we did the afternoon, which is difficult for staff because they don't work on Friday afternoons.
I work on Friday afternoons. It's fine.
Next Friday for me will be
Friday.
generally good.
Yeah, my Friday is open, so I can be flexible with that whenever.
Yeah, I mean, if it's Friday for me, it'll have to be early.
Friday works for me.
So I would say, 8 or 9 in the morning would be, or earlier, whatever. I can't push it just for that. The 24th, I have an obligation, so I
Okay.
can squeeze an hour out. But
Could we
if-
do 9 o'clock on Friday? I know, Janet, that's hard with the juggling stuff, but
Well,
I can
you
do,
know,
yeah, 9 is fine.
so 9 on the 24th, I would just request we don't make it a regular
yeah, no
Sure,
no
yeah.
problem. And the other
9
thing,
a.m. on the 24th.
and the other
Got
thing
it.
I was
Okay.
I was gonna suggest, Janet, too, is that, I mean, if we're crisp about it, why do we have to like make it an hour or hour and a half? Make it 45 minutes and then we get that 15 minutes back to get to where we need to be at 10 o'clock. So, I mean, if it's gonna be, depending on how crisp we are and if things are ready and queued up to discuss, maybe we can be
Mhm.
Efficient and start at 9 and be done by 9:40 or 9:45 and just put
Well,
the
even
meeting.
if we're done at 10, that's fine. I just don't see us,
Right.
given our nature, that we'll be able to do it.
Well-
And it's also for me being available by 9 and ready to go. You're talking to
understand.
an old retired lady here who likes to get her beauty sleep, but no, we can 9 o'clock.
Okay, so 9
Friday
to 10
morning
next
is
week.
good. I would
Okay.
suggest
Yeah.
picking the subsequent week only because all of my scheduling happens in the short term. I don't have a lot of standing things, and I'd rather schedule around this than readjust my schedule every week.
Well, I
Mhm.
think maybe next week we can discuss a more regular meeting schedule once we've got a lot of the documentation and know what else we're waiting for.
Okay, I would just, put out there right now, the 29th, I'm totally out of pocket, morning and afternoon, and can't change either.
Okay.
Okay.
And do we need to pick someone to do minutes? I would suggest we started on a rotating basis, because part of the issue with the minutes is the amount of lead time that the town needs to get them posted and everything else. Means you don't have a lot of time if you're meeting on Friday and your next meeting is a Tuesday.
So I'll tell you, so Janet, let me tell you a little secret about Jesse, okay? I was, I volunteered to be on the moderators committee on PFAS, 2.5 years ago with Elisa and everybody. And they needed a volunteer for minutes. So I said, okay, sure. So the way I do minutes is that I do them as the meeting is going, and I sent the group the minutes right when the meeting closed, and that was that. So there was never a time in the year we worked on it, and we had many, many meetings. The minutes were always done at the end of the meeting because I was typing them quietly and quickly at the top level, so we knew what was going on, the votes and all that stuff, basically during the meeting. So I'm happy to do it on the 24th because if I know I'm doing it during the meeting, I know I'm not adding another hour to my time to write them afterwards. Otherwise, I'm not volunteering to do it. So I'm happy to take the first rotation spot on the 24th. And you may see me looking down and up from time to time during the meeting. That'd be because I'm typing them up as we go. For me, that's the most efficient way of getting it done.
Yeah, that's a skill I don't have. So I'm glad you're doing it, Jesse, because you can get it done better.
Right.
Well,
I'm gonna say ditto,
I'll take it
same
for the
thing.
first one. Yeah, I'll take it for the first one, okay?
Well, who would like to do today's meeting? Because we do need minutes for today as well.
I'm happy to do them. I mean, we didn't have any votes on anything yet, did we? It was just an order. I'll do
Should
it.
be pretty straightforward. Okay.
Yeah. I have a meeting at 11. Between now and then, you'll get the minute. I mean, I'll send it. You said you wanted you and Nicole and Chaz to get it, the three of you? The minutes?
I actually, just for this committee's awareness, and I'll share with the other committees today, my last day with the town is actually next Friday, October
Oh.
24th.
Oh,
Oh,
my.
congratulations.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why I haven't been mentioning some things to me as well.
Okay. Well, good luck in your
I
future
thank you. Thank you. I'm moving
endeavors.
back to North Carolina. So as
Beautiful.
much as I love my time up here, I've found myself missing family and friends. So
Sure.
yeah. So yeah, if
Well,
you
that's
can send those to
North Carolina benefits and we lose out. Oh,
Seconding the I.
Thank you. Thank you.
all right. So Tiffany, I'll take care of today's.
Great.
It'll be it'll be probably just a Google Doc. Okay, fine. I'll take care of it.
So just a couple of things. So we're going to meet on next Friday, October 24th from 9 to 10. Things I'll have on the agenda, or Nicole will have on the agenda is minutes approval from today. Not for next time, but I think probably regularly we'll just have a note on the agenda that has assignment of who's going to do the next minutes, so that we're clear on that. We'll formalize selection of chair once we've confirmed with John. We'll discuss a more regular meeting cadence. What else will be on the agenda for next Friday?
So I think it's the budget. It's the budget. It's the projection of a level services budget, the potential no override scenario, and then the revenue and expenditures adjustments other than property taxes, and then finally the potential override asks. So
What was the one you mentioned before that?
Revenue and expenditures adjustments other than property taxes.
And the first one was the town level service.
Yes. Can I share my screen, Tiffany or Nicole?
Nicole, you'll have to promote Chaz. Oh, you should be able to. You're a co-host. It's not letting you?
Yeah, he
There we go.
should be
Now
able
it is.
to.
There we go. All right, there we go. While we've been talking, I've been working on this. So you can see, the next 4 meetings scheduling out with deliverables and some of the with what's to be discussed, what are the deliverables, what work is to be done in the interim, so I imagine it's going to take. So we talk about here, you can see we're talking about the deliverable of the written report responsibilities. I feel like building this out, this gives us basically 4 weeks, a month to talk about the, and then from here, I think it's a question of then where you find the most important priorities to lie, right? Where you want to do the deep dives, where, what additional information you need in order to pressure test these assumptions. And as they shift, because they will shift, I think, based on your reaction to some of this material, what additional information you need in order to make these decisions. So giving you the base lay of the land as we see it next week, then moving into a deeper analysis of what are we doing other than raising property taxes, and what do we, so you'll get that information next week. You'll be able to kind of give us your initial impressions and then have a week to ruminate on it and then come back to us for an in-depth analysis of it. Then the following week, talking about the if there's an override, what is that? What is in there besides maintenance of effort? And then the opportunity for general follow-up and being able to invite the department heads, the relevant department heads, to have a conversation about what those needs are.
But there is a document already that we've seen that has all the department heads reports that we,
Yes,
that's sitting
and
somewhere.
I will recirculate that.
Or just put it
Okay,
on,
that's good.
or just put it on the website again.
Yep.
That's your E2 there.
Just in
Yep.
one place, include the little departments, because we never really
Yes.
spoke with them. We just got written reports, and those are the ones where any sort of cut is going to be felt harder because they don't have much to begin with.
Yeah.
And may not have filled out their full list of really, 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 this is the most important thing.
I will be sure. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll see this show up in the minutes. Chaz, I already screen grabbed it while you showed it. So
Oh, perfect. I'll circulate it to the group.
okay, then
Great.
Yeah, so I'll circulate this to the group. If you have individual thoughts on it, scheduling doesn't violate the open meeting law. I want to be careful about substantive discussions, but any thoughts that you have additional, as you start to think about how this is gamed out, please shoot me and Nicole a note so that I can keep building this out. So this is a living document that's going to keep growing.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so see you
We're done.
next Friday. Thank you.
Yeah. Next Friday, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Next Friday,
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
by Zoom.
By Zoom.
Yep.
All right, see you all then.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.